What's going on, people? We have another incredible episode. Will, get out of here. We have another incredible episode of House of the Dragon to do for you guys tonight. And oh man, Eli, it's the one we've been waiting for. It's the one that, again, we've been hyping it up all season. We got it. The sowing of the goddamn seeds.
Oh, yeah.
And oh man, an entire 6 episodes worth, Rook's Rest, everything, Daemon wasting away at Harrenhal. It is all paid off. It is all led to this moment on this episode of the Dragon Watch. House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 7. Stay tuned.
I was remembering hours following King Viserys' death.
My brother was a slave to his omens and portents. Anything to make his feckless reign appear to have purpose.
What are we going to do about it?
Did you really think that you could just fly about the realm, trying to steal my brother's throne?
Kings didn't make us kings. Dragons did.
All right, Eli, we've been waiting for it all season. We knew we were getting to this episode after the surprise of Sea Smoke basically claiming Adam last episode. We finally got it. The sowing of the seeds, which is the infamous event in which Rhaenyra summoned a bunch of lowborn, baseborn Targaryen bastards from King's Landing to Dragonstone in an attempt in order to claim the two dragons that are residing there, Vermithor and Silverwing, who previously belonged to her. I believe it was her great-grandfather, King Jaehaerys, and his wife, Alysanne Targaryen. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that happened in this episode, but just as far as, this being the centerpiece episode, right? This is another infamous Game of Thrones penultimate episode. Game of Thrones was known for its insane penultimate episodes. Baelor, Blackwater, Reigns of Castamere, Watchers on the Wall, Dance of the Dragons, Battle of the Bastards, Beyond the Wall, and The Bells.
Oh, yeah.
Literally all, all some of the best episodes of the entire show. And after, I would say, kind of a disappointing penultimate episode last season, where ultimately you had the action of the Greens takeover and coup of King's Landing kind of split into 2 episodes, that I actually thought in season that the first season of House of the Dragon, the better episode was actually the finale rather than the penultimate. Here, I mean, just the sowing itself. Yeah.
No, it's funny you say that, because I honestly thought the 9th episode of the first season was the weakest, and kind of by a pretty large, and it wasn't obviously, the coup taking place itself was pretty interesting, but I think what kind of soured that episode for me was when Rhaenys just went full genocide on and they kind of never really mentioned that again, even though that's one of the biggest
and again has an open but besides even the terrorist attack implication, the fact that she has the easiest chance to take out the enemy in one shot and chooses not to.
So it's also that. And then the fact that it's never spoken about ever again, and it feels like obviously we've been seeing this season how there's all this support for Rhaenyra among the small folk and the lowborn, but I feel like murdering a bunch of them, one of Rhaenyra's biggest supporters murdering a bunch of them would maybe
it's not a good look.
Just a little bit. So
it's not a good look ultimately.
Yeah, just from the writing standpoint, at least. I mean, obviously there was no mention of it in the book, even when
right.
So
it was just
kind
that
of felt like
Rhaenys
it was just
escaped.
thrown in.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, you needed to have Rhaenys escaping from King's Landing in order to serve the narrative purpose, but just as far as the extra stuff, it's I agree. That episode is really kind of weak for me.
What was it needed?
Yeah, it's what are we doing here? But this episode, man, did they freaking deliver. I mean, just the sequence in and of itself of all the Targaryen bastards, and then Rhaenyra claiming Vermithor, and then she's like, all right, I'm out, have fun. And then just pandemonium ensued. And it was glorious, ultimately. And so, I mean, just break it down your thoughts, right? Because from the opening scene with her confronting Adam on Sea Smoke, and they don't waste any time at all. The opening scene, she's literally standing there in front of Adam is being like, you're riding this fucking dragon, who is my ex-husband's dragon. Again, still no mention of Laenor or anything like that. What the hell's going on here? And he's pretty much like, this dragon came to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to serve ultimately. But so what are your thought process on Rhaenyra's kind of willingness and eagerness, and the fact that she is ultimately prioritizing the fact that she finally has a chance to put the advantage back on her side at the behest of, I would say, some pretty, not sage advice, but some pretty, I would say, worthwhile caution from her fellow advisors, because at the end of the day,
right,
even though Jace is coming at it from a very personalized standpoint, I feel like that you can't ignore some of the tactical problems that he has with it, which is not only is it our name that kind of sets us apart as far as dragon riders, and now that's kind of removed if you're essentially letting these baseborn regular people come in and claim the dragons, but also how do we know we can trust them at the end of the day, But then obviously Mysaria brings the point of it's like, yeah, Aegon and Aemon are your half brothers and they're fighting you for the throne. So we need to kind of get rid of this whole idea of, disregarding just baseborn people as baseborn people. And again, that's what makes the sowing of the seed such a crucially important moment, not only in the Dance of the Dragons, but within the entire history of Game of Thrones. It's the only time in recorded history that, at least as far as we know, that the commoners actually got to step up and play a major role that's not just, getting kind of trampled on and fucked over by the higher lords. So, I mean, just the act itself, like, what were your thoughts on it?
Oh, I mean, honestly, I get it just because, I mean, I feel like they've done a great job the last couple episodes of kind of building up kind of the desperation on Rhaenyra's side of things where, I mean, she said it herself. She really has no land army, right? And she's trying to conquer the land of Westeros. Dragons aside, right? I mean, her back kind of is up a wall. And I mean, she always was. I think it's still in character for her because she was always really supportive of the small folk, and we saw right from the beginning in season 1 that she was very caring towards other people of lower birth, and that she really wanted to be a good queen, and that's where kind of she saw her places is you got to win the heart of the people you're actually going to rule over. So I think her philosophy has stayed pretty true throughout the show so far.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, Hugh and Ulf, man. I mean, we've been following these two with their tiny little parts that they've been mostly disconnected from the major action. We've kind of only seen the fallout of the greater war and affecting them as far as being the common folk, and they finally have their chance to shine. And man, they do not disappoint. Obviously, and again, like Hugh definitely is a little bit worse off than Ulf. They unfortunately revealed that his daughter died in the previous episode of the sickness that she was suffering from. He has to leave his wife behind, and he's literally like, she's like, but I have a chance to claim the dragon. And Ulf, I love how Ulf, it's literally like, I don't know if I want to do that. They're literally like, you're kidding me, right? You've been bragging this entire time about being a Targaryen bastard. Now's your chance to finally take it, and you're gonna say no. And I love how he's kind of bullied into doing it by his fellow friends. And the first chance he gets knocked off the ledge by Vermithor. He's like, fuck this, and of course stumbles into Silverwing's lair. And naturally, Silverwing being the docile dragon that she is. I mean, just the sequence in and of itself of the claiming, like, look, the Vermithor sequence in and of itself. It's funny. I was actually just texting Spence about this, and I'm like, yeah, that's the best Jurassic Park sequel ever made. Ever, easily. I mean, it's better than anything that we got. It's incredible. It's literally like a bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing, literally to the point where the Dragon Keepers like essentially resign in protest, being like, this is blasphemous, and then they walk out, and then you literally just have Vermithor again, as Rhaenyra said, it's the second largest dragon in the realm after Vhagar,
right,
just wrecking shop with these poor people. And the suspense is a little bit gone after last week's episode with Sir Steffan Darkland unfortunately being cooked by sea smoke. And so it kind of just turns into like a brutal slaughterfest, but it's kind of entertaining. But it's really good character development, I think, as far as like showing the dichotomy between Hugh and Ulf specifically, because Hugh is somebody who, again, at the end of the day, he's brave when he needs to be, and having lost everything essentially, he literally has nothing left to turn, and he stands up to the largest dragon, and it bows for him. Meanwhile, Ulf,
props to him. I mean,
seriously. Yeah, it shows. And also the fact that, Ulf has been proclaiming loudly about his Targaryen heritage, but Hugh is somebody who we really weren't sure, and now he basically confirmed it in this episode. And Ulf is literally just trying to get away, and he ends up, like, of course, running into Silverwing's lair and kind of just happens on it accidentally. I love the dichotomy between the character, again, just showing character in every frame of these crazy, insane action sequences. Also, the fact that they're still able to deliver in terms of giving us new and different kinds of action sequences. Just walk me through your thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was, I think the action itself was very, very creative in terms of, like, it's not typically what you see in a Game of Thrones show. So, I thought the whole sequence of how things played out, I loved Ulf's entire little journey through this episode. I thought it was so funny. Definitely a standout for me. One of my two standouts, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. I thought I had such a great time with this episode. I was actually like kind of laughing out loud at times, and I was chuckling to myself. I mean, this was like this. You really can tell that they've made this show for the fans. I couldn't be more happy. Because when just after the finale of Game of Thrones, I was so ready to kind of be done with this universe, and it's the little moments like this that really have like been able to like kind of recapture some of the magic of the first series.
I couldn't agree more, especially given that I love, and there is nothing that makes me happier than seeing all of these critics online that work for all of these like high up profiles, wringing their hands and be like, oh, it's not working, it's too slow, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I talk to regular people and they all love it. There's not a single person that doesn't love it. It shows that, again, this shit is for the fans. It is for the nerds. We are the ones who love it, and this is clearly a property that is made for us. And the creators of the show, Ryan Condal, have clearly learned their lessons from the mishaps of the last season of Game of Thrones.
I also want to just know what some of these critics, like, their criteria is. Like, are you critiquing it as an adaptation or just like the work itself? Because I feel
it's the classic case of, when one thing goes, they just replace it with another thing. It's like, it's too faithful to the book. It's not faithful enough to the book.
Well, yeah,
it's too slow. It's moving by too fast. It's their job is literally just to nitpick.
Corporate media, I think we like it's kind of well known. They're all kind of paid for at this point.
Yes.
Like you can't really trust the critics the way you used to.
You really can't. You really
take it
can't.
with a grain of salt. Like like The Boys season 4 having a critic score of 51%.
Well, I'll at least justify that a little bit because of the political edging. And you and I have brought up different things about like the problems with this most recent season of The Boys.
Definitely had its flaws, but I still think 51% is kind of wild. I won't lie.
51% I think is honestly kind of high. That's higher than I thought it was going to be. But
that's great. We should debate that sometime.
Yeah, we will for sure. But real quick, so cutting back to some of the other sequences that we have right now, everything going on in King's Landing with so Alicent's just in the Godswood, just chilling. I was told that this was going to be more of a suicide attempt. I have to say that as far as what we actually got, I was a little bit disappointed. For me,
definitely wasn't. It kind of, I'd say, one of the more forgettable parts of the episode. I feel like there wasn't really enough, really emotion or any stakes in it. I feel like this doesn't really change Allison's story in a big enough way to include, I guess, make up for the amount of screen time that it had.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah.
For me, the interest here is Larys and Aegon, especially given that the rumors that I've heard about next week's episode, it's going to be that they're doing a little bit of a switcheroo of certain events, but it does make sense as far as for the narrative, where you see Larys continuing to bond with Aegon, who the Grand Maester is trying to help him recover. He has recovered a lot more than I thought he would, but I loved how they're continuing with that little arc of Larys feeling like this kinship to Aegon now, especially now that Aegon has been severely burned. And once again, building up Larys's, enmity with Aemond as well. I love that trifecta back and forth.
Not just with Aemon either. We're seeing people are starting to come to him with information for him to leverage, right?
Exactly.
He's kind of really starting to slide into the Master Whispers role, and it makes you wonder what he's going to do, if there's going to be any changes with him from the books in terms of how he uses any information that he may get later on.
Yes, absolutely. One of the notable absences in this episode, Kristen Cole, Gwaine Hightower, and Tywin Lannister are all not in this episode, as they've kind of all gone off on their respective missions. Real quick, cutting to Harrenhal real quick, Daemon and his confrontation with the River Lords. We got Oscar Tully infamously making his stand ultimately, and Will Blackwood definitely getting a lot more than he thought he was going to get ultimately. Daemon finally has his army. He finally has the River Lords at his beck and call. Did not go the way that we were expecting. And do we think that this is finally the end of Daemon's just kind of meandering at Harrenhal ultimately? While it has been an interesting character arc, it unfortunately kind of has resulted a little bit very similarly to, I would say, Daenerys' arc in Karth in season 2 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I would say not that I think the arc itself is bad, but I think it's been a little drawn out, at least more than it needs to be.
Yes.
I think between all the visions, I think it does a great job of capturing and we're obviously seeing Paddy Constantine again, and seeing Daemon's inner thoughts is always pretty cool. But how many times did we really need to, kind of get the same message?
At the end of the day, it is kind of repetitive.
I get it from the budgeting standpoint. He's obviously one of the main characters. You got to have him in every episode, and got to give him, I'm sure, X amount of lines and yada yada. Corporate, whatever. But
that's exactly it. Yeah, but what did you think of his scenes with Oscar Tully?
Man, that's what I wanted.
That's
to
the
touch
standout
on
for me of that whole sequence.
Yes, Oscar Tully was absolutely, I think, my standout of the episode. Obviously, everything that was going on with the dragons was phenomenal, but I don't want that to overshadow how awesome I thought that scene was with Oscar Tully kind of coming into his own. Because we've been hearing him just by name, right, for a couple episodes.
We saw him already, technically, when Daemon told him to kill his grandfather, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that."
Right. Yeah, and he kind of. So I do like how our perspective of Oscar was kind of led us to be one thing, and then it ends up being something completely different this
Yep.
episode, where he really kind of just walks right into that role of being the River Lord, right? And he
Yep.
just he puts everyone in their place, right out the
Yes, he
gate,
does.
in a way that he
Playing the
doesn't
Game of
completely.
Thrones, playing the politics very well. Again, does not let his young appearance and how everyone is roasting him get to him at all. He handles himself against Daemon very well. He straight up calls Daemon out. He's like, yeah, you've done nothing but make a mess of things out of here.
Yeah,
And now
how many
you need
characters
me
are
to
willing
clean
to
your
do
shit
that?
up. Love
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Love that. There is nothing that
Phenomenal
makes me happier than seeing characters stand up to Daemon. And that's really, I think, the secret part of why Daemon's arc has not been a complete misfire is because not only is Daemon being held to task by himself, but also you finally see that, like, yeah, not everyone in the river in the Seven Kingdoms is willing to deal with him the way that really his family has for his entire time, you know? And I love that. It's adding some much needed humility, and it finally leads him to carry out justice when, in a very surprise maneuver, he executes Willem Blackwood, which who saw that coming, you know?
Yeah, definitely did a big old 180 on Mr.
Yep.
Blackwood there.
Yes, he
That
did.
was pretty funny to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that whole sequence was very, very enjoyable. Especially I think, Damon having an impact on the others around him, right? I mean, we were getting all this buildup with the Riverlands, right? We're finally gonna actually see how that's gonna fold out, right, in the end of this season, start of next season. I'm very, very excited for what's to come.
Yep. Absolutely. High tide. Corliss is seen with Alan. I mean, so Corliss only has like a brief minute with Adam after Adam kind of settles in and he sees him as the Dragon Rider, right? So I thought that we were going to get Corliss raising his sons to and legitimizing them, but we didn't get that in this episode, but that means we're definitely getting it next episode. Corliss basically telling Alan, he's like, yeah, you're going to be our spy master now, ultimately. You know, Alan kind of being the one that kind of now I like that, even though Adam again gets all the spotlight with, getting to ride Sea Smoke and being one of the Dragon Riders. Ultimately, I like how Mysaria, they're still using Alan as far as part of the plot. Mysaria is like utilizing him as part of like her network in order to like bring the bastards to Dragon. So what did you think of Corliss's scenes with Alan?
Honestly, every single time we've seen Alan, I haven't been like, I guess, wowed by any of his scenes. I mean, not that he has a huge part or anything. I'm sure, obviously, we're gonna see a little more of him later on in the series. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice seeing him at least open up a little more to him. And now that his brother, is kind of Mr. Dragon Tamer, and now suddenly is
well, Adam gets the record as far as setting the template to prove that, like, oh my God, Rhaenyra's stupid idea can actually work,
right?
And kind of opens up the door for Hugh and Ulf, obviously, to claim Vermithor and Silverwing. So
yeah, and I do like seeing the perspective of someone that maybe doesn't may have a possible claim to a dragon that doesn't want to, right? I think it does more for the sake of world building, and that's not everyone's interest, and not everyone is super risky stupid wanting to potentially die by dragonfire. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So but I liked Alan's continued usage. Jace's scene with his mom. I have been very back and forth on Jace this season, especially because I think it's safe to say that Jacaerys is not the character that he was in the books. They've been bits and pieces of that, but I would say that Jacaerys is kind of been a little bit on the back burner this season. He obviously, I like that he still got credit for being the one to, propose the idea of, the dragon seeds. But as far as his reaction to his mom, again, and the fact that he's kind of coming at it as like a spoiled child, where he confronts Rhaenyra for, Harwin Strong being his real father and everything, and kind of like, did she ever consider once the impact that it would have on, him and his brothers ultimately? Again, bring up very valid points, but I feel like it's like, sure, bad timing to say the least. Ultimately, once again, Rhaenyra skips another council meeting. It's like, okay, that was to be explained, especially since she's probably tired of listening to like older men try to tell her what to do. I sort of understand that, but I mean, again, is Jace raising a valid point, or do you think that he's just like, again, he's coming at it from a place of just like, kind of like as a bratty child?
Yeah, I go back and forth on this myself, because I feel like we almost have seen kind of two different sides of him this season. Where he's so in favor, right? He's so supportive of his mother, right? At the end of episode 5, like not even that long ago, right? And he's finally like ready to take on the role of the heir, and he learns the prophecy of ice and fire and everything. And I do agree. I think we've definitely seen a little more of his more immature side this episode. Not that that's a bad thing. I think his development as a character, let's be real. I mean, he wasn't even like a character in season 1 practically. So it is nice to see him develop. And I think obviously we kind of know why he's getting these, I guess, as much screen time as he
Yeah.
can get for what's
Yeah,
to
we
come.
we we, we
given
know.
everything.
We know.
Yeah, and so I do feel like that. I'm sure they'll kind of resolve, or at least semi-resolve, or leave him in a good place for when the time does come for him to march off to war there, fly.
Yes.
I guess is the proper
Yeah,
term.
fly.
So.
Yeah, that's the thing, because they have said that the Blacks are taking King's Landing next episode. That's happening, and I
Yeah.
mean, man, talk about a switch overnight. Especially if Reyna claims Sheep Stealer in the next episode, like we're thinking. Again, that makes it what?
It's gotta happen.
Well, it's gonna happen. It's not a matter of
yeah, like last
a matter
episode
of when.
confirmed it.
And this episode, when she basically breaks off from the party, as far as that, unfortunately, the kid's going to the gay abandoned, and she's like, "Yep, peace out. I'm going to claim a dragon." I thought that was hilarious, but it's like I'm just.
No, I agree.
Cyrax, Caraxes, Vermax, Moondancer. Now they've got Sea Smoke, Vermithor, Silverwing, and if they get Sheep Stealer too, that's 8 dragons to the Greens. What, 2 now? That's insane.
Yeah,
that's an insane
I don't think
advantage
Vagar
right
can
there.
handle all that.
Yeah, Vagar can't handle 8 dragons at once. It can't. It ultimately can't. And that's kind of ultimately what leads us into the final sequence of this episode, where after Ulf claims Silverwing, Aemon's at a meeting. He's looking bored. He's like, okay, your brother Darren. I mean, the good thing, so the Greens technically do have 3 dragons now because,
right.
Tessarion is taken to Wing. And even though it's funny, I was also talking to James about this as well, where he was saying how we were going to see Tessarion next episode flying with the High Tower army when they start marching. But, what's it called? We're probably not going to get a shot of Darren. I would be very surprised if we do, because they definitely haven't cast him yet. They're going to cast him for next season. But I mean, so I am glad that they are still showing that the Greens aren't entirely out of sorts. But like, it's safe to say that like, so Aemon's sitting there, he's bored. They hear that like people are screaming about a dragon. He looks outside. You see Ulf flying Silverwing like the idiot he is around the city. Aemon immediately rides out to Vagar. Whoa, man, how much it would have sucked if Ulf and Silverwing ended up going up against Vagar in battle. That would have been insane. But
oh boy.
But it leads to ultimately one of the most badass, if not the most badass closing shots that I've seen, definitely this season, possibly of the entire show and this entire universe so far. Aemon flying Vagar towards Dragonstone, and what he sees, he's like, he needs to turn around. Rhaenyra with Cyrax, Hugh riding Vermithor, and then Ulf and Silverwing landing on the parapets, and literally Rhaenyra with this just look of stoicism on her face, literally like, yeah, that's right. Who's got more dragons now, bitch? Oh my god!
Very excited to see what
talk about a baller final shot. And you know that Aemon's spooked when he's going to Helena for advice in the next episode, being like, "Yeah, I need you to ride on Dreamfire," and Helena's like, did you forget the part where I lost my son in the premiere? I am in no shape to be riding a dragon right now.
and freaking oh hey Will, what's up? And between Aemon's injuries from earlier in the season,
Aegon's injuries, yeah.
Aegon.
Every episode.
We were so
every episode. We were so close to having one. We were
I'm gonna
so
blame
close.
That one on Will. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Just blame everything on him. That's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Great episode, honestly. Great episode. Had an absolute blast. Couldn't have asked for it. Was everything that I wanted from the Sowing of the Seeds. We got dragon taming. We got dragon mauling. We got dragon flying. We got a badass shot. The sides are being set up. So as far as next predictions for the finale next week, which I can't believe that we're already there. I feel like we were literally just starting the show the other day. Again, definitely going to have the Blacks taking King's Landing, Tylan interacting with the Triarchy. Rhaenyra is flying to Harrenhal in order to talk with Daemon. Reyna is definitely finding and taming Sheep Stealer, the High Tower host. Kristen Cole marching towards Harrenhal. And what else am I forgetting? Oh, and the Blacks are taking King's Landing. But unfortunately, we're going to see Vagar torching the Riverlands as a result. So it's going to be a baller finale next week, and it's setting us up for some more seasons of craziness, to say the least. So, Eli, what do you give this episode out of 5?
Oh, I think this might be one of my new favorites of the whole series. I can't really give it anything other than a 5. I really have no major complaints with the episode. I think the pacing was very well, even with some of the slower arcs. They're finally starting to gain their traction, and I mean, great setup as always by Game of Thrones shows for what is to be a very epic finale, and I'm very excited to see what's to come from a few characters in particular. I'm very excited to see what occurs with Larys next episode, given his role in the books, right, and everything with Aegon. And I just wonder what kind of little changes they're gonna make to the battle from the books. Just that I think
Right.
might.
Well, the
Yeah.
biggest thing now is that they are definitely switching the taking of King's Landing and the Battle of the Gullet. Where in the books, the Battle of the Gullet comes first, but in this one, they're going to have
Well,
the
yeah,
Blacks
yeah,
take
that-
King's
that-
Landing. And the whole thing about it is that the taking of King's Landing is a relatively bloodless affair, because the problem is that they've screwed up and sent all their forces to Harrenhal with Aemon and Vhagar, so the city is practically defenseless. So by the time the Dragons land, the Valyrian fleet arrives, they take the city pretty quickly. So it makes sense for them to do that first, and then, because by then, the Triarchy will have arrived in order to break the blockade, and then you could have the Battle of the Gullet, because by that point, then Dragonstone's left undefended. Dragonstone and
Right.
Driftmark are left undefended. So it kind of, again, makes more sense in order to switch the two events.
Yeah, and I guess I don't mind that, just because I think it means we'll definitely see a lot more character development from Jacaerys and probably a few other dragon seeds in the meantime. So
Yes.
I'm frankly all for it. I think kind of switching it around, makes things, I think, pretty interesting. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have these guys kind of chilling in King's Landing for a lot longer, and it makes you wonder if like any new plot lines are gonna arise from this.
Exactly.
or-
Especially once we get into the next phase of the dance after the Blacks take King's Landing and everything that kind of happens from there. So out of 5, what do you rate this episode?
Yeah, right. I was totally getting to that, but yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5. Great
Yep.
episode. Pretty much no complaints.
I'm only
Fine.
giving this a 4.5 because the Allison sequences in this episode were kind of pointless. Other than that,
guess.
phenomenal episode. Phenomenal episode. It's the payoff to everything we've been waiting for the last 2 episodes, really, since Rook's Rest, and it's setting us up for a baller finale next week. Cannot wait to cover that with you, and possibly some surprise guests next week as well. Eli, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Yeah, same old, same old. You guys want to give me a follow? You can find me at E_Holicky, like it is spelled on the screen here, 45, E_Holicky45 on Instagram.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. This episode will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow, along with our coverage of Deadpool and along with our coverage of Deadpool and Wolverine and everything that happened at
Just saw that earlier.
Comic-Con this past weekend. Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts, to
Yeah.
say the least. So
It was a good time. It was a good time.
it was a good time, to say the least. It was fun. So, like I said, we'll see you guys next week for the finale of Dragon Watch. Stay tuned.
I was reminding hours following King Viserys' death.
My brother was a slave to his omens and portents. Anything to make his feckless reign appear to have purpose.
What are we going to do about it?
Did you really think that you could just fly about the realm trying to steal my brother's throne?